The first chapter is about the identity of the holy name. I've selected different entries there. This is, you can say, for senior devotees, this is basically a refresher course. And it's actually refreshing just to hear about the glories of the holy name. Because this is actually, hearing about the holy name means hearing about Radha and Krishna. And when you see it like that and understand like that, then every single word is actually nectar. Because Maha Mantra is Radha and Krishna. But maybe we don't perceive that so clearly or directly or profoundly. What does it mean that the holy name of Krishna is transcendental and should never be considered material sound vibration? The holy name has absolutely nothing to do with the mundane world of matter. The holy name is not a combination of material letters and syllables. The form of the holy name is Satchidananda, eternal blissful consciousness. Although in this world, the holy name is not of this world. The divine name of the Lord is not a product of the material world. Only a liberated soul can purely pronounce the transcendental holy name. A conditioned soul covered by the modes of nature cannot utter the pure name, Chintamani Nam. So this is the point, that the name is transcendental. And we practice the holy name so that we can become transcendental. By associating with that transcendence, we become transcendental. This is the whole idea. And Jaiva Bhaktivinoda is telling us, the Nam is a Prakrita Chaitanya Ras, a transcendental living mellow. This is very nice. This is chapter 20 of Jaiva Dharma. Prakriti means material energy, material world. Aprakriti means is not the material energy. Chaitanya Ras. Chaitanya Ras. So Chaitanya, of course, means many things, but it means consciousness or alive, living. So living, and Ras means so many things. Sacred rapture. Some translators, they translate the word Rasa to mean sacred rapture. Jan Brzezinski uses this term. It's quite appropriate. Sacred rapture. Because Ras is also there in drama, material drama. The term is there and the experience is also there. So he qualifies it by saying sacred Ras instead of Ras. So this is the name as transcendental living mellow. Within Nam there is not any scent of mundane consciousness, says the Thakur. When a devoted jiva becomes purified through bhakti and renders service to Sri Harinam, Sri Nam personally manifests on his tongue. Nam cannot be accepted with the material senses. So we have material senses, eyes and nose, etc. But the name is accepted. What the name is looking for is attitude. Attitude. Even if you don't have senses, you can have attitude. You may have no eyes, you may have no ears, but you have attitude. You have attitude, you have bhav, the feelings to do seva, the feelings to serve the holy name, the genuine service attitude, which we've heard so many times. And Prabhupada tried to implant that, enforce that in his introduction of the Maha Mantra. Service, service, service. This is the meaning of the mantra. The mantra, on one level, the mantra is Radharani having full enjoyment with Krishna. Some acharyas explain this. But of course that's also service. On the highest level, Maha Mantra is also service. Radharani is serving Krishna in the most intimate, confidential, ecstatic form and way, in the Kunjas of Vrindavan. And that's also a meaning of the Maha Mantra, which is given by Vishwanath and other acharyas. But then it's also me, this little jiva, trying to turn his face, his bahir mukh, turn his face towards God and start to serve Him, start to think of Him, remember Him, and meditate upon Him. This is also service from the lower level. So this is quite correct. Prabhupada is introducing like that. When the conditioned soul pleases Sri Guru and Sri Krishna, the Sarup Shakti, internal spiritual potency of the Lord, descends upon him and enables him to purely chant the divine name. This is actually, the name chants itself. The name will give itself to the self. We are also self. The Sarup of the Nam will give itself to us. when we have this, when we come qualified. That's why we're always saying, Kripa Karo, Kripa Karo. Oh Vaishnava, please give me your mercy. Kripa Binda Diya. I'm serving you, I'm trying to serve you, but I don't think my service is very perfect. I don't think my service is very pleasing, because I don't feel that this rain of mercy is coming down. But when the service becomes absolute, totally surrendered, then the mercy comes. Because serving Guru means serving the whole parampara. The whole parampara, most of the parampara, they're all in the liberated sphere. They're all they're just absorbed in the Sarup Shakti of the Lord. And they're Siddha-devas. So as we please the direct representative of the parampara, then all the members of the parampara become, they all nod, yes. If the Guru gives a nod, yes, this disciple is very good, then all the Gurus in the parampara are nodding like this. And they're nodding, yes, and then the mercy's coming down from one to the other, all the way down. So, because our Gurudev, he was enticing everyone by paraphrasing a verse which is actually in Sanskrit. It's saying, when you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna will dance on your tongue. So all that Krishna dancing on my tongue, that's a very interesting sight, interesting experience. I mean, not that I have. How can I make God dance on my tongue? I mean, I become the controller of. That means if I'm making someone do something on my tongue, that means I'm the controller. In this case, Krishna is God, and Krishna will dance on my tongue means that I'm controlling it by chanting. And that's exactly what happens. When we chant Prem Nam, at the level of Prem, you can control God. But until you come to Prem, you're not going to have Krishna dancing on our tongue. Because he only dances. Who does he dance for? Look at the history of Krishna's dancing. Or Sachinandan's dancing. He also started dancing at a young age. Kumar, Sachi Kumar, right? Sachi Kumar, Krishna Kumar. Started dancing, as soon as he started walking, he started dancing. But he was only dancing to get ladus and sandesh. And who was the dance masters? The dance masters were the Braja Gopis. And they would clap their hands and say, "Oh Nimai, if you dance, we'll give you some sandesh and kela, bananas." And then they would start clapping their hands and dancing, and he would raise his chubby little arms and stand up on his chubby little legs and start, "Oh, Aribo, Aribo." They say, "Hey, Uto, jump." And then they would feed him. So Krishna would dance for the Nadia, ladies of Nadia, Brahmanis, and he would dance for the Braja Gopis in Gokul. Because they have prem, pure love. So prem makes everybody move. If we have prem, God will come and dance on our tongue. So this is how it's explained, and that how this pure name manifests. That it's by pleasure. We attract the Lord by our pleasing attitude. Krishna Sarup Shakti is a combination of Hladini Shakti, bliss potency personified as Sri Radha, and Samvit Shakti, knowledge potency personified as Lord Baladev. Krishna Sarup Shakti manifests the pure name in a surrendered heart. Krishna Sarup Shakti manifests the pure name in a surrendered heart saturated with devotion. That's a pretty tall order. Surrendered heart saturated with devotion. So that's what happens. Guru takes a dry sponge. You have a sponge, these rubber things, sponge. He takes a dry sponge and he puts it inside the water. And then it starts to soak up. So when a sponge is put in the water, then it soaks up the water, becomes very heavy, it increases its weight disproportionately. A very few grams of sponge starts to weigh 1 kilo of water. So it's full of water, becomes heavy, bhara, heavily laden, and then if you squeeze it, then all this ras comes out, all this juice, all this water comes out. So that by doing Guru Seva, our hearts are like a dry sponge. Our hearts are like a dry sponge. So that service, when he engages Guru Seva, he immerses that dry sponge of our heart into the Seva Ras, the serving. And then that's what it means, saturated with devotion. This phrase is there. This Krishna Sarup Shakti manifests the pure name in a surrendered heart, saturated with devotion. So the Guru is a saturator. And that saturation that's what the first verse we read in the introduction of this book. Majantyo Jagat Premni. The Lord Chaitanya, he's also a saturator. He's the original saturator. He wants to immerse everyone in the ocean, a whole universe in the ocean of prem. So this is the key to how to get a heart that's saturated with devotion. Enriched with ecstatic rasas, the pure name then embraces the tongue in the dance of prem. When explaining the transcendental nature of the holy name, Prabhupada often compared the chanting of the word water to the name of Krishna. Everyone's heard that analogy so many times. Water, water, water. You say over and over, what happens instead of getting wet, you get dry. You're talking about a wet substance. Water means some liquid. Water. Clear liquid, which nourishes the body, satisfies the senses. But you're chanting something that's liquid and wet, and you become drier and drier. But there's no ras there. There's no ras in that word. In the word water, there's no ras. But in Krishna's name, there's ras. Prem ras, bhakti ras. So the more you chant, then it starts to get tasty. Nam ruchi. So this is quite appropriate word Prabhupada used, water, not water, water. If Krishna were different from this is Prabhupada explaining civilization, transcendence, the conclusion. If Krishna were different from the chanting of Hare Krishna, then how could we be satisfied by chanting the whole day and night? This is the proof. An ordinary name, if you chant Mr. John, Mr. John. That's an American name, Mr. John. Of course, that was the first name, but Prabhupada used to meet people and they'd say, this is John Smith. And later, instead of when Prabhupada would meet that person, he would say, oh, there's Mr. John. He wouldn't say the Smith part. Prabhupada had his own cute way of... And then the people would love it so much because they never heard in their life. Prabhupada would endear them to him because Mr. John Smith, when everybody would meet him, they say, Mr. Smith. Then he would meet Swamiji, and Swamiji would say, Mr. John! Mr. John! And the guy would like it so much. This Indian man, he doesn't know our English very well, and little did he know that this little Indian man had written 80 books of impeccable English with beautiful style and incredible poetry. But he thought, oh, he's so simple, Mr. John. So, if you chant an ordinary name, Mr. John, after chanting 3 times, you will cease. But this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, if you go on chanting 24 hours a day, you will never become tired. This is the spiritual nature of the absolute truth. This is practical. Anyone can perceive it. Prabhupada's a very convincing salesman. Because preaching means sales. It's sales. It's the ultimate sales. So this is an interesting thing. We say that this is Prabhupada's statement. I like the way the logic Prabhupada uses here. He said, Krishna's words and he are not different. That is omnipotency. Because we say, oftentimes when people give a generic definition of God, they say, he's the big omni, right? Omnipotent means he has, omni means, what does it mean? All? Omni means, is that what it means? All? Omni? Means omni. Omnipotent means all potency, all power. And omnipresent means he's present everywhere. And omniscient. Omniscient means all-knowing. Right? Nescience, science. Omniscient. So he's omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. What other thing? Omni what? Any other omnis? So this is God. So we say he's omnipotent. So if we say that God is omnipotent, that means that, as Prabhupada is saying here, everything relating to Krishna has the same potency. If God is omnipotent, then that means, God has unlimited power, all power. So that means his name must also be omnipotent. It's like a simple logic. I mean, if this equals that, then it must be like this. So Prabhupada's conclusion about this name. So immediately you can be in touch with Krishna by vibrating this sound, Hare Krishna, because God is omnipotent. So His name has all the potency of Him. So you can touch Krishna by vibrating this sound. It is so potent. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. The name of Krishna is Chintamani, transcendental. It is not material, sound, material name. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya. Chaitanya, living force. It is not dead sound. So these are reminders. It's not dead sound. It's living force. And some of these phrases are very catchy tunes, you could say, phrases. And the first one we read about transcendental living mellow. And the Prakriti is very, very catching. Prakriti Chaitanya. This mantra, this is living. It's living mellow. Krishna, Radha and Krishna are living in this mantra, and I can live with them also. And I can serve them. What's with me? What am I waiting for? What's blocking me from this ocean of nectar? Why I'm